Labour's called on the government to set a deadline of June next year to ensure buildings in England with dangerous cladding are made safe. June 2022 will be the 5th anniversary of the Grenfell Tower fire, in which 72 people died. As MPs debated the Queen's speech setting out the government's plans, the Housing Secretary defended his approach and hailed proposed changes to planning in England. The government's announced plans for new safety rules for high-rise blocks in the Building Safety Bill. But Labour argued it would fail to protect leaseholders.
After 11 years of a Conservative government, that's become a pipe dream. Their market-driven ethos just won't create the homes we need. And for people trapped in buildings with dangerous cladding, that dream has become twisted and become a waking nightmare.
The Housing Secretary focused on the government's determination to increase the supply of housing in England at pace.
And that means taking decisive action to remove the barriers that for too long have held us back. My department has a unique opportunity to achieve transformational change that will improve the lives of millions of people. We will be working on the most substantive reform of leasehold and property rights, and of building safety, of renters' rights, and of planning in a generation.
On fire safety, he said the government aimed to raise £2 billion from developers to help deal with the issue of dangerous cladding.
As members are aware, leaseholders in high-rise, high-risk buildings over 18 metres will pay nothing, with their costs either being paid by the developers, the insurers, the warranty providers, or by the taxpayer through our £5 billion government fund, the largest ever government investment in building safety, and 5 times the size of the building safety fund that the party opposite set out in their manifesto.
Fire safety in Scotland is a matter for Holyrood.
Scotland has only a handful of Grenfell-type cladding on buildings, which, well, this is a much more widespread problem across England. We in Scotland can look forward to a single building assessment programme, soon to be launched, carrying out safety assessments on all properties with external cladding, so that the scale of the funding needed can be identified for the necessary remedial work. There will be no first-come, first-served approach when it comes to building safety in Scotland.
And there was further cross-party criticism of the Building Safety Bill.
When the Building Safety Bill comes before us, ministers will find amendments to provide that protection to leaseholders. We're not giving up, and there's a growing number of members of this House, including on the government benches, who are determined to do right by our constituents because they've run out of patience and they're running out of time. As their lives remain on hold, their flats remain worthless, they face monthly bills for waking watches and insurance premiums, and the demands are starting to arrive for sums of money that they simply do not have.
Wouldn't it be even better if the government was to do a U-turn now and decide not to lay at the door of those people who are blameless the cost and the price incurred by those who are guilty of recklessness and lethal decisions in both the development side and in the government regulation side over the development of properties over years? It is absolutely outrageous that we are apparently about to penalise the innocent for the failures of the guilty.
Before this legislation, leaseholders were facing unpayable, ruinous costs in the tens of thousands of pounds each, literally trapped in fire-trapped buildings, unmortgageable, unsellable, with no way out. And after this bill is enacted, with its regulator and its new Homes Ombudsman and its new framework to provide national oversight of construction products, they'll still be in exactly the same position.
But a senior Tory pointed to the £5 billion of taxpayers' money going into the removal of dangerous cladding.
And I would caution my colleagues who think that they will be able to get substantially more money coming from the Treasury. What we have to do is to ensure that we get the end of forfeiture, which is why I welcome the leasehold reform. We need to ensure that the cost falls in the appropriate place, not on leaseholders, and that we don't absolve developers and builders of their responsibility to put right the mistakes that they created.
The reality is that we need to protect leaseholders from the unscrupulous behaviours of developers. Under the Leasehold Reform Bill, that will take things forward from now onwards, but we have to combat people like Bellways who sell the freeholds from under the noses of the leaseholders without even informing them, to finance companies that exploit them to no end.
Bob Blackman.